is the rescheduled meeting from February 15th, 2021. Thank you for joining us this evening. We had a few technical difficulties, so you are going to view this recording after the live session. With that, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5:09. Lorelei, will you please say our prayer?
Yes, I'm just going to pray in my own mind. Thank you. And then I'll tell you I'm done. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorelei, for that blessing. Tribal Council, we have an agenda before us. Is there any additions to this agenda?
I have one addition.
Okay, go.
Off reservation voting for elections.
Okay. Are there any additional agenda items?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to add the workplace violence topic that I brought up in a couple different emails.
Thank you. Is there any other additions? John?
Yeah, I just wanted to probably not discuss, but just give what knowledge I have of the Bryce Anderson land purchase. It was something that had a lot of support from the table, and it's still an opportunity. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on it.
Okay. Thank you, John. I would like to add heating and cooling assistant discussion. Is any further additions? If not, is there a motion to approve as amended? We have a motion by Eric. Do we have a second?
No, real quick.
Okay.
Discussion on the road through Bagel, our main road through Bagel. Just a discussion on that. Like to add that.
Okay, main road through. So.
Motion to approve after Eric's.
Okay, we have a motion by Brian. Do we have a second? We have a second by Eric to approve the agenda. Discussion. Any objection to the motion? With no objection, motion carried 8-0-0. Our first item is the reading of the minutes. In your packet, you have the February 1st, 2021 regular tribal council meeting minutes. If the council had an opportunity to review those, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Eric. Do we have a second? We have a second by Coley. Discussion. Any objections to the motion? Without objection, motion carried 8-0-0. Thank you. We, under the ratify 5 signatures section, we have adopt resolution 21-64 home site lease, Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska, Marshall Bass. Is there a motion to adopt, to ratify that 5 signature? We have a motion by Coley.
Second.
Okay, we had a motion from Coley and then John. John, did you want a second? Is there discussion? Objection to the motion? 8-0-0. Our second ratification is adopt resolution 21-65 home site lease, Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska, James Price Jr. Is there a motion to approve, to ratify?
So moved.
We have a motion by Brian. Do we have a second? We have a second by Coley. Discussion. Any objection to the motion? Without objection, motion carried 800. Under new business, we have the approval of Little Priest Board bylaws. Do we have anybody on the phone on, oh, actually, we won't, because do we have anybody from Little Priest on the call?
Yeah, Tori, this is Manoj Patil, college president here.
Hi, President Manoj. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your patience in having this on our agenda. As you know, we had a lot of postponed meetings, and out of respect for our relatives, we put our tribal business off. So
I
I'd like to
understand.
turn the floor over to you so you can talk about these bylaws and the request.
Yes, first of all, thank you, tribal council members, for your time. I appreciate it. So I just want to give a brief history. So August 24th, 2011 was the last time tribal council officially approved the Little Priest Tribal College board bylaws. So officially, it's been almost 10 years. It has not been approved. There was a board update on January 16th of 2013, but the Little Priest Tribal College did not take it to the tribal council board. So the Higher Learning Commission has shared their concerns of not updating the bylaws. Usually they recommend 3 years. Even though there may not be any changes, at least they recommend a 3-year update for board bylaws. So our board of trustees met together, we worked with them, and we made some changes. Then we had the legal counsel review our board bylaws, and we are presenting the latest updated board bylaws to the tribal council for your approval.
Manoj, are there any significant changes that you'd like to talk about?
Yes, section 412, we have included a board compensation appendix B. So as we all know, our board of trustees work a lot. They work really hard, and we are just as a small token of appreciation, we want to pay them $50 for full attendance of a regularly scheduled meeting. It's not a lot of money for anybody, but we just want to be grateful for their time and the energy they put in to move the college forward. Many of the tribal colleges in university have that tradition, and we want to, just a thank you for them for the time. Also, Appendix A was approved on April 15, 2020 board meeting. So Appendix A is basically the board of trustees can take free classes, 2 free classes at Little Priest Tribal College. So we want to, we believe that everybody is a lifelong learner, and we never should stop from learning. So we want our board of trustees to have that benefit as well, not just our employees. Also, next thing is, Tori, I think you remember this, that I had sent you an email a few months back. Starting 2021, the president of the college will be updating the tribal council in June and December of every year. According to the bylaws, it was every month, and that was not being followed for a long time. So we want it to be a realistic bylaws. So we want to keep it June and December of every year. During the mid-monthly report, the president will come and update. Section 5.6 and section 5.5 got updated, brought some more structure to it. And also section 9.3, in the past, the board of trustees were to sign the checks. Now we made a president and a board of trustee, or 2 board of trustees can sign the checks, because it was delaying our issuing of checks if the board of trustees were not in town or something like that. So these are the major updates from the board bylaws.
Thank you, Manoj, and I appreciate one, your willingness to compensate your board members. Many times people serve out of the kindness of their heart and they have a passion for the subject, but it within other tribal entity boards, we have the $50 honorarium, if you will, or stipend. So that's definitely in line with what the tribe is doing. Thank you for allowing your board members to participate in some of those classes. And also the increased communication will be helpful. You know, we want to continue to support the college, and if we know what's going on, that'll be go a long way in the support that we can offer, in not only financially, but, you know, things come across that you might need an approval for, and we want to be walking hand in hand with you as the college grows and expands. And so I'm going to open up the floor. Any comments or questions you might have for the president of the college, Lorelei?
Mr. President, can you email me each section or appendix and a statement about what was revised? Because I didn't get it all written down, and it probably needs to be in the motion. So email it and we can add it when we write type the minutes.
I can do that, Lorelei. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there, if there are no other comments or questions, is there a motion to approve the Little Priest Tribal College bylaws as amended?
So moved.
We have a motion by Louis. Do we have a second? We have a second by Rona. Discussion. Any objection to the motion? Without objection, motion carried 800. Well, thank you, Manoj, for joining us, and we'll work to get that language in the minutes.
Yeah, Tori, can I take a couple minutes? I just want to,
Sure.
this is the first opportunity I had. I just want to, first of all, thank you, Tori, of course, you, and I also want to thank all the tribal council members for all the support over the years for the college. And I just want to share this, that personally, I want to be a part of the community. I want to help the community. So just please make sure if there is anything we can do from the college, we are there for everybody. So college is a community organization. So thank you for everything. As they say in Ho-Chunk, Pinagagi. So thank you. I love working at Little Priest. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, Manoj. We appreciate your leadership as well.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Good night. Our next order of business on the agenda is approval of utilities department policies. In the packet, you will find a resolution that established the utility code and the structure of the billing. You may have saw some email traffic over the past couple weeks. We had filled a utility board position, and that's a separate issue. Okay. Anyway, so in the packet, we have the approval of utilities department policies. And if you recall that we had recently seated some utility board members. And so the email traffic was trying to find out, like, is it a functioning board? Is it still a function of collecting, water fees? And so that's on the agenda. Is there anybody that had more information they'd like to expand on?
Madam Chair, I don't know if facilities Autumn got on yet, but what's in the packet is, it says Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska Utilities Department Policies 2018. This is a policy that the utility department always wanted approved.
Okay.
And they have it's all listed in here. We built it in here. We didn't color copy these, or you would have saw where their suggested revision was. But this is their policy. And attached to it is the resolution when anybody's gonna tap the water. And I was told by Autumn that this is the fee that's paid into utilities. And it's usually the Indian House Service when they're digging a well or tapping into the line. And they do collect that money from the Indian House Service. So they want approval of this policy so that it can guide them going forward. And So if we can do that, but we also need to discuss this code. There's a utility code. And there's a lot of plans, ambitious plans in that code, and it may become important. So maybe we need to schedule a time where we have a closer conversation as a tribal council about this code. It's going to be very important because very soon our IT people, who I think they should actually be in the discussion, they're working towards where we may become our own internet server, which would then be under this code. So if we need, maybe at another time, we could have more of a conversation about the utility code. And Brandon from IT can do a presentation. So we're updated on where we're moving with the internet service for our community.
Thank you, Lorelei, for informing us on that. So we will work together to schedule that meeting. I think a couple months ago, Eric had asked for a water infrastructure meeting, and Esther scheduled that. And I don't know what the issue was, but the council wasn't available and we had to reschedule that. So we'll pick that back up and maybe we could do those two discussions together. So Eric, we didn't forget about that meeting. I don't remember why it was rescheduled, but Esther had her team ready to participate. So with that, we have a utilities department policy that's been vetted by the program, and this is how they are currently functioning. And if there's a motion to approve these policies as presented.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Thelma. Do we have a second? Second by Rona. Discussion.
I have a problem with the sewer. I'm on a drain field. I don't use the sewer, but they charge me for the sewer anyway. I don't think that's fair.
Okay, well, if Louis is having this problem, and maybe it's some of the folks that live in that part of town or on the outskirts of the village, is this something that you want to address before we approve these, Louis, or are you comfortable addressing that after? Oh, Thelma? Oh, sorry,
We can
Louis?
address it after.
Okay. Thelma, did you have a comment?
So,
Oh, sorry.
there are a lot of other.
Yeah, they,
I'm sorry, Thelma, I cut Louis off. Louis, can you finish your comment?
There are a lot of other people are in the same situation.
Okay. Thelma, did you have a comment?
yeah, that happened to me out here too, but you just gotta contact them at the facilities and let them know that you have your own sewer, and then they'll credit to your account.
I've asked them that several times. Going back 10 years.
Oh, crap.
The village wouldn't do it.
Okay, Louis, we'll circle back on that because if you're having that problem, there's certainly other families having that problem, and sounds like Thelma figured out a solution. So let's we'll work together on that portion in our water infrastructure meeting. That I'll just make it a priority. We need to reschedule that. So if we approve this, that doesn't mean that there can't be modifications at another day, but if they've been functioning in this manner since 2018 under this policy, I would like to at least give them an approval from the council, and we can put a caveat in there that we'd like to look at that sewer portion. I don't know if Thelma made the motion and Rona seconded it, but just trying to think about how we proceed. Eric.
Yes, there's a lot of that infrastructure. I can't emphasize that enough. A lot of our tribal members are having problems with it. And so I think when we have that meeting, to have all the a lot of the current problems addressed at the same time, so we kind of have a good idea of what we're looking at or going to start out with. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Eric. So we have a motion and we have a second. Are there any other comments about this document? We're going to work through the sewer issue in our special meeting. No other comments? Okay. Is there any objection to the motion? Motion carried 800. Our next item is old business, land purchase appraisal for Barry Fiskus property. Do we have anybody from the land department with us this evening?
Madam Chair, I did ask them to be in at the, or offer them the opportunity, but I spoke to Wilhelmina earlier today. And the price for this land purchase of this 40 acres of good farmland to the tribe would be 144,000. And the land program doesn't have that in their account. And I asked the CFO, what could we do? What are our options? Because I hate to see us lose that 40 acres. It's within the reservation. And he said that we could, there's 700 and some thousand that we put into a Liberty account. It's just called the land account. Remember, we talked about that as a council. And he says if the council wants to buy this land from Mr. Fiskus, we could pay for it out of that land account. The 144,000.
Okay. Thank you, Lorelei. Brian.
I know it's relatively hard to see, but within the electronic packet, it's pretty deep into it, but it's on page 50. There are several specific parcels with which that 144,000 is broken down into the cumulative total. And so what it basically comes down to with all of them together is $3,600 per acre, which for farmland is pretty good based on the historical data that at least I remember, but somebody else can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not the farm expert guy. But at the same time, if you're looking for it, it's that deep into the packet. Page 50 is where that's broken down, and that reiterates the statements that Lorelei made. And so with that, I'll make a motion to authorize the treasurer to take all actions necessary to acquire the Fiskus property.
Second.
We have a motion to authorize the treasurer to take all steps necessary to acquire the Barry Fiskus property, 40 acres, appraisal value of $144,000 to be taken out of the land account. We have a second by Louis. Discussion. Any objection to the motion? Without objection, motion carried 800. Thank you, council. I think this is a really amazing thing as we buy back our reservation piece by piece.
Madam Chair, was a second by Louis.
Yes, a motion
Okay,
by
thank
Brian,
you.
second by Louis.
All right, thank you. And the CFO said that the tribe is going to get a really good return on this out of as lease because it's really good farmland for the years to come. We can generate revenue. Thank you.
That is great. Eric, did you have a comment before we move to the next item?
Yes. You know, when we first purchased this land, it went through the Senate for us to get this, and I think that would have set precedents for this land and for the people to have it and to sell it back, or to say that there's we say there's a checkerboard to the land in Winnebago. And the precedence of us going through the Senate as a tribe to purchase this land, the people that purchased it, that now makes a checkerboard, if they don't go through the Senate, is it still really legally their land? Because the precedent was going through the Senate. And so all the land sales that were said to have gone on that didn't go through the Senate, that didn't meet the precedent of our purchase. So, I'm just kind of wondering that when I hear about us buying our own reservation back when we went through the Senate to purchase it, but they didn't. So would that still legally make that a sale? Or
Well,
so it's just
yeah, I'm definitely not a legal expert on this issue, but unfortunately, when when tribal nations were found themselves on a reservation and later federal policy allotted that land, and then drew taxes, and many tribal members lost land, and there were predatory things that happened back then to our tribal members, and a variety of bad federal policies, maybe I'll just say it like that, kind of found ourselves in this situation. So, but we can certainly follow up on your question with our legal counsel, and they'd be able to provide some real accurate information.
yeah, I think that would be worth looking into, because a lot of our former enrolled member landowners that sold their land to non-natives, if it didn't, that seemed like precedence that should have lacked that solidification of the sale. So it's just a thought. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Our next item is under tribal council items, and it is the Gaming Commission selection of officers. As you may know, we recently reappointed Tanya Baker and Damon Pear, and we also appointed Keely Purcell as the gaming commissioners. And through discussion, we found that we wanted to have a meeting with the new gaming commission before we selected officers. And so, and we want, of course, the gaming work group was a part of selecting these, and in their role, they did a great job. So thank you guys. And congratulations to those that were selected. We had a lot of good candidates, I understand, and it was, so that ended up like that. But we're not going to select officers tonight because we want to have a meeting with the full commission and the full council so that we can have some open communication and really have a transparent conversation about expectations and just things to make our commission the best it can be for the Winnebago tribe. Did anybody for the gaming work group have any comments before we ask for a motion to table this? Okay. So is there a motion to table this, or is there a motion to table these until we can set up a special meeting with our gaming commission?
Make a motion to table until we can set up a meeting with the gaming commission.
Thank you, Eric. Do we have a second? Second. We have a second from Rona. Discussion. Brian.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's pretty clear because you specified that we have to identify what general expectations are, but this appointment matter has been going on now, extending out a full calendar year from its original initiation. We are going to be approaching March of 2021, and this process started, I believe, in March of 2020. And I know that COVID influence obviously has something to do with that as well, but I'm wondering how much longer are we going to actually wait for this? Because I didn't realize that we were tabling this issue tonight, and we do have 2 members of the commission present.
Yeah. Hi, Tanya. Hi, Keely. Thank you for joining us this evening, and congratulations on your appointment. We would have had this meeting, I think, probably last week if we didn't have so many postponements. Rona has been in contact with Keely and has provided a little training and sharing some of her knowledge. And so we're really motivated to get this going. So as soon as can be scheduled, Brian, I don't know if even tomorrow if the Gaming Commission would be available, we could add it to our tribal treasurers agenda. I'm also anxious to just keep it moving. So so we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, Tanya or Keely, did you want to say anything?
Hi, council. We would be available tomorrow. Tanya and I were just talking about it. 3 of us for sure are in the office, and we could reach out to the 4th one, to Mark, and certainly invite him tomorrow to the meeting. It's just not a work day for him, but we're all happy to attend tomorrow. The other 2 were scheduled to.
Okay, well, let's plan on tomorrow, and we hope that Mark can join us. I know it's short notice for everyone, but we really do want to get this moving. So that sounds good to me. So we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further comments?
Chairwoman, I have one more question.
Yes.
Is there anything you need us to prepare, or any questions anything you want us to have ready for tomorrow? We do have our usual report that we do for our finances, but is there anything else that you would like us to have tomorrow, since we're talking about having a discussion?
Right. I'll work with the treasurer to identify if there's any documents that we need for the discussion, but I don't want to speak to it because I don't know at the top of my head what we would be asking for. But I certainly want everyone to be prepared, and we don't want to catch anyone off guard. So we can put together an agenda for that portion on what we'd like to discuss.
Okay. And is this also going to be go-to, or did you want us to come to the chambers?
It'll be go-to. The treasurer's report is go-to, and so we'll just all participate remotely, and we will get something out if we have any questions as far as backup or anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments, questions? Okay. Is there any objection to the motion? With no objection, motion carried 800 to table this until tomorrow's treasurer's report. Thank you guys for joining us, and thank you for your stepping into your new role. Our next agenda item is Thelma to discuss off-reservation voting.
Okay, this is just a discussion, but I would like to see how we can proceed to do a secretarial, what is it called? Secretary election to allow off-reservation voting. And I would think that it would be just for the voting, and that they cannot run for council, but just to vote. So I don't know, I just kind of wanted to hear what everybody's thoughts were on it.
Thank you, Thelma, for introducing that topic. And I think it's been an ongoing discussion way before my time, you know, that there's been a desire for our tribal members, especially the ones living as close as, you know, Homer, Walt Hill, South Sioux, that they want to participate, and they feel like, and as far as, you know, East Coast to West Coast, maybe even international, we have tribal members, and it's important what's going on here to them as well. So that would require an amendment to the Constitution, as you fully understand. This, as far as I know, hasn't been one of the things that we've discussed. It's been mostly about enrollment with the secretary election, but that doesn't mean that this isn't a high priority for some of our council. So my piece on it is, if with technology, with absentee ballots, with the need to strengthen our nations, you know, I think all voices are valid, and then there's the, I think, the opposite side, that folks that don't live here, why would they have a say on what happens here? But it's not always their fault that they don't live here, with lack of housing, folks going other places to pursue employment. So it's not always that they don't want to live here, it's that there's not an opportunity. But I think the council has continued to make housing a priority and opportunities that I hope that there's a option for anyone that wants to move home can move home. So those are my comments. I'll open it up. Brian has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The comments that I want to offer on this are: one, the secretarial election process obviously takes a resolution of the council to enact. Because this is one of the several subject matters that would require changes to the Constitution, to me, it would make more sense to actually hold the secretarial election, again, to remove the necessity for a Department of Interior secretarial election and bring that fully into the tribe's governance and control. Now, I fully agree with the ability to have tribal members, regardless of residency, to be able to participate in selection of the government that represents it. But at the same time, again, because there are other items that would require secretarial election, why not let's just get rid of that requirement overall, bring it into the tribe's governmental exercise, as I alluded to earlier, and exercise our sovereignty in that way. Because as you are all aware, the secretarial election process is not instant. We would be pushing a 9-month to a 1.5-year window to even get this done. So why not change it to where it becomes a tribally controlled exercise for all items? Then the second comment that I want to make with that, if there's no objection to that, we also have a general council meeting, which is where this will obviously have to go at some point. This could be placed on that agenda as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Brian. Lorelai?
I talked to Vice Chairman Chamberlain about this. And I wanted to know, because right now with the way the secretarial election is held, the Bureau covers the cost of this. They do the staffing, they mail out the registration to each enrolled adult, and they stick in their envelope to return their registration. And they do the staffing for when they get it back. And whoever registers to vote in that election, that's the percentage they look at for how many actually vote. And in the Constitution, then there's a percentage that has to participate from those that registered. Okay, so that's staff time, that's postage, and then it's staff time again when they mail out the ballots and they're returned. So if we get rid of the secretarial election, where's the money gonna come from to when we get rid of it? Because it's not currently in our budget this year. So I said, before we get rid of something, what's gonna replace it financially? And the added benefit of having a third party staff the election, the registration, staff the return, is honesty. Because none of us can participate in the counting or any of that. Because that's why there's a secretarial election, is it takes a third party that manages it. And so I haven't heard a plan on how that would be funded, at least in this fiscal year, or how it would work. So it's always a good thing, if you're gonna wanna get rid of something, to have a plan on how you're gonna pick that responsibility up. That's just my point. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Lorelai. We'll hear from John, then we'll go back to Brian and then to Eric.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think there's a lot of support for finding ways for more of our people to have a voice in what's going on, and that I think that's important. So thank Dalma for bringing this forward. And also that a lot of our tribe members are well informed, the ones that live close near here, and probably come here almost every day, every other day they're here, and they don't get to have a voice within our voting. So we should try to find a way. And with what Brian said and with what Lorelai said, I just wanted to say that that's another subject that maybe we should save to discuss for another time, because that's a pretty heavy subject, and it might take us off from the agenda item, which is off reservation voting.
Thanks, John. I think we had Brian next, then Eric, then we'll go to Louis.
Okay. The first part of that is the secretarial election is named after the U.S. Secretary of Interior. And then therefore, what that indicates, what we all need to acknowledge, is that the Winnebago tribe doesn't even control that process. And so if we're going to be considering ourselves a sovereign nation and a sovereign entity, why on earth are we relying on someone else to provide election support? Now, I do understand the necessity for providing for the resources to hold these types of governance events, but at the same time, again, because of the timeline that will occur within any secretarial election process, regardless of what it's for, that is not going to occur within this fiscal cycle anyway, because of the snail's pace at which the U.S. Department of Interior moves in relation to these types of efforts. We're going to have to petition to even be on the list. And that is based on the experience that the tribe has had in the very recent past, especially in relation to what was wanted for enrollment changes to the Constitution. So my point in stating this is that why are we continuously throwing ourselves back into the US government system, and then in this case couching it because we don't have a budget set up for that? Those things can be easily brought forward. They can be easily promulgated in order to create the necessary solutions so the tribe can fully retain its sovereign ability to determine for itself what the law should and should not include. Now, I understand that, again, that was the point that I was making. The election part of this is important, but it is not the only one. Therefore, why would we continuously go back to that process, change it, so we don't have to go into the U.S. Department of Interior, bring it into ourselves, and then we can have each one of those scenarios brought forward according to what budget or what resources we allocate to it. The whole point is fix it from the beginning and then worry about the details later, because it's simple to do. But at the same time, we have to understand the timeline isn't going to require those things that are brought up in that comment in the beginning anyway. Don't shoot that down just because it's not presented and ready to go today. Understand that we have way. Don't shoot that down just because it's not presented and ready to go today. Understand that we have the ability and we have the obligation to create this opportunity for ourselves, because we can't call ourselves sovereign if we're turning around and asking the Department of Interior, even if she is going to be a Native person, she still represents the government. That's our law, and it needs to be controlled by the Winnebago tribe and the Winnebago tribe only. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. We're going to Eric, and then Louis, and then Coley. And then Louis, and then Coley.
I would like to say thank you to Councilwoman Whitewater for bringing this to our attention. And this has been a topic for quite a while now. And I believe, as our chairwoman said, that it's not their fault for them not living on the reservation. And a lot of that has to do with housing. Again, part of our infrastructure and jobs. And in order to make their lives work, they have to move off the reservation and find a job that they can adequately maintain. And so being an enrolled member, regardless of where you live, that voting is a privilege that comes with being an enrolled member, living on or off the reservation. I believe that no matter where they live, they should be able to exercise that right and then be given their voice. And that's just a privilege, again, a privilege of being enrolled. And as far as removing the secretarial election, that's I believe it needs to stay in place for the moment. That's part of our checks and balances. It gives the people their voice Because if we lost that, then the tribal council would be able to dictate what can and can't be done. And there's people out there that there's always another side. And just like anything else to protest. And if the tribal council is given that ability, depending on how the tables run or how it's seen, they can take the people's voice away. And they won't be able to be given that ability to do that. And I believe greatly in that ability to protest, because it's part of the checks and balances of our community. And so with that, I'd just like to say about that much. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Louis?
It's Coley.
Oh, I thought it was your turn, then Coley. Okay, go ahead, Coley.
Okay, thank you. I agree. I agree with Brian. We need to remove that and remember our mission to be self-sufficient and to not be asking people to take care of us. That's our job. And so I wanted to say that. I do agree we remove that and we handle things ourselves. And again, we are supposed to be self-sufficient. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Coley. Louis?
This has long been a issue about letting the off-reservation people vote. They have a different mindset. They're more independent. They make do. They have to found it. That's all. So they're pretty independent. And there will be clashes between the groups. We take care of a lot of the off-reservation people come in. We took care of them on those freezers and the meat. We help them not as much as they want, but we talk today about going after a per cap for them. It's not as if we don't do anything, but they left. They left our jurisdiction. And when you lose your, when you vacate your jurisdiction, you vacate the rights you had. So I'm hesitant to go into this. That's all.
Thank you, Louis. It's a good discussion. Rona?
Good evening, everybody. For the off-reservation voting, it's a possibility. There's pros and cons to it. Like Louis said, there's some people who've never even been here or even participate in daily cultural activities or harvest dance and such. They have the opportunities to do that, at least once a year. So it's kind of hard that, I want everybody to have a voice, but they also need to be here at one time a year at least and participate with maybe the harvesting of the corn or something to show that they really are invested in being Winnebago and being from here. That's the only stipulation I think that I would like to see more people in the community, and maybe we wouldn't have so many, broken things down or, vandalism and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just kind of like reaching to find ways to say, 100% okay with the off reservation voting. As for the secretarial election, I do believe we need to get rid of it. We should be out from underneath the government's thumb and find a way to get this done, and find a different third party separate from the tribal council to do these services for us, so that they can't say we're dipping our hand in there. We're changing it to better our own selves. So from there, it's more discussion later on as we go forward, and change is always good, and moving forward is always good. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, for those comments. I just want to, I guess, agree with all of you in some sense. And as far as the secretarial election, the tribal members' voice would be preserved, but one of the things that bothers me about going through the Department of Interior is that when we have the ability to take on those functions, we should. And there are other functions and I'm thinking more of healthcare, that the federal government says, oh no, those are functions, we preserve the right to those functions, and it's like they stand in the way of self-governance. And so I'm all for areas that we don't have that barrier, but I thank you for the discussion, and this is something we can talk about at our general council. The next thing, Thelma, this is like you all had shared, this has been going on for a long time. And I want to just share what one of the tribal elders had said to me kind of like years ago, 2015. They said that I made a commitment to stay on this reservation, and my family upheld that commitment to stay here and make a way of life here. And so that kind of stayed with me, and I've never forgot it, because I thought that it really means something to that gentleman, that they've made a way of life here, that they've raised their children here, that they've grown this tribe through their contributions to the tribe. And sometimes some of us left the reservation and came back for one reason or the other, and how do we maintain a livelihood here with the membership and the resources that we have, and the commitments that we have to take care of this piece of land that we call our reservation. Although it's not our homeland, it's what we have now. It's not our Aboriginal lands in Wisconsin and the whole that whole region. So I think about these things, and so I just want to offer that, and it's related to Louis' comment that there's a couple different schools of thought when we approach this voting on and off reservation, and I find myself somewhere in the middle. But I just wanted to, so we don't get too much away from our agenda. The General Council had sent out a survey on your priorities, and tomorrow we're going to hear the results of those surveys. And so at that time, maybe we plug in these two issues and where they lie in our priorities. And if you never got a chance to reply to that survey, it might still be open. So I just want to offer that to you. Eric, did you have a comment?
Is he muted?
Yeah, you're muted, Eric.
There you go. Can you hear me now? Okay. Yes, I'd like to agree with our chairwoman Kitchi on why a lot of our enrolled members cannot be living on a reservation. And as it's been said, we have jobs and housing. Now that's coming from our own tribe. And a lot of times our enrolled members can't be here every year, like myself, I was in the military for 12 years and I wasn't able to come back. We have people that going out for bigger and better jobs. And we have one now in DC that just went out there a few months ago. She's not coming back for a while. And you know, not everybody is only their full blood whole chunk. They have other blood in them, and so they have another side of their family that they have to get in touch with as well. And we all have to be understanding with that or of that, and to give them, you know, if they're enrolled, they deserve to have their voices heard. And I think that's very important on election time, around election time, for elections. I think one thing, if we even think of going in the direction of removing the secretarial election, that I think one of the first places that we should start with that is 638ing our PD in preparation for that. And so with that being said, that's where I would like to see us move in that direction. And that will set the foundation for us to start standing on our own should it come to a secretarial election removal. And so as Councilman Chamberlain said, it's going to take up to a year before we get anything on this. And I think the first step would be to get our enrolled membership, regardless of where they're living their lives on or off the reservation, that ability to vote. And then 638 our PD. And when we get to there, we're looking at 4 or 5 years down the road, that then we can probably look at secretarial election removal at that time. And so that's kind of the way, the directions that I would say that we should be moving to get to where we'd want to be. But we have to start with giving our people their voices first. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, so well, Thelma, thank you for bringing this. Oh, Eric, or excuse me, Lorelai.
Madam Chair, I responded to Vice Chairman's comment about getting rid of something and not having a plan before you get rid of something. That was my comment. I didn't
Okay.
say I was opposed to it. I just responded that we can't get rid of something unless we have something to replace it with. And that's what my comment was about. So now I want to make my comment about off-reservation voting. I support it. Especially up here in, we have a service area. We have 495 and have 495 enrolled tribal members living in Woodbury County alone. Adults. We don't even know exactly right now how many of our tribal members are living in Dakota County. And they have always felt disenfranchised or second-class tribal members because they never had a vote on who's going to be our leaders. And so I'm in support of that. And it's going to take some work, but I do support that. But also there needs to be some seats at this table for off-reservation tribal council members. If we're going to give them the vote, they need to have some guaranteed seats at this table. And that's easy to do nowadays because we meet virtually. So someone's not going to have to travel. And everybody, as you know, tribal council members get access to email. So on my opinion about voting, I believe all our tribal members should be able to vote. And I believe that they should have some seats at this table representing the off-reservation tribal members. So I just want to clarify. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorelai. Thank you to Thelma for bringing this discussion. I really appreciated hearing.
Can you put your mic down?
Thank you, Thelma, for bringing this discussion forward. I appreciated hearing everyone's opinions, and I think as we have more time to concentrate on these specifically with our general counsel, that we can start putting the steps in place to do it and work through some of the discussion items where people aren't comfortable. I wouldn't want to pass to get rid of it either until this council had said this is the way it's going to be, and it just really does bother me having to ask for what we want to do for our tribe. So good discussion, everyone. Thank you for your comments. We will continue those discussions as agenda items for our general council. That brings us to our next item. Brian, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. We have the workplace violence. Brian had sent an email maybe several weeks ago by now, and the discussion was going to be at our CEO report, but it's on the agenda tonight, and so we'll just start here. So Brian?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. With this subject matter specifically, what I'm actually looking for and what I would like the council to consider is revisions and, more appropriately, additions to the existing policy and ergo the existing code that we have in relation to this scenario. Because of the lack of our ability to protect our workers, or more appropriately, I guess to say, because the protections that we have don't necessarily have enough teeth, if that makes sense. My whole subject matter in this, I would like this to be brought up here for general discussion, but more appropriately within the general council meeting, because that's where the code revisions will have to be brought forward. The main purpose of that is to strengthen the provisions and protections that we have for the workers within our organization under the entire umbrella, to include penalties for individuals who violate this policy, who make threats, who intimidate, who even have, I guess, even violent episodes within the workplace for our staff, regardless of which entity or organization they work for. The whole point is, if you work for the Winnebago tribe, you ought to be able to come to work in a safe, secure environment. And therefore, I think that we need to strengthen our code and our policies to go as far as, if somebody wants to come in, especially a non-tribal member, and threaten a tribal employee, that our court system is imbued with the authority to banish them from our reservation. I will not stand by idly while I hear about instances of this occurring. It isn't the subject matter, and it's not the individuals that matter. It's the fact that the occurrence happens without being addressed. And because I understand that how we address it is in place, in my opinion, it is not strong enough. I want us to be able to put out for all of our employees protections under the full tribal umbrella, that you get to come to work and do your job safely. And if somebody acts the fool and comes in, then they will face a severe penalty. And that's my point.
Thank you, Brian, for bringing this forward. It often, we don't like to be reactive, and if there's an opportunity to be proactive, and we find gaps in our code, that's our job to bring these discussions forward. So I do think there'll be more discussion at the CEO report once, as the CEO had prepared things for that discussion, but we're having council discussion now, so the floor is open. Eric had his hand up.
Okay, I was just, that's what I was wondering about, if the CEO was aware of that and engaging where Councilman Chamberlain is wants to take the council in this direction with the workplace violence, to see what our policies are in place now and how that's going to compare. And I don't know what the exact policy is on workplace violence, but to see what's in place now and what's intended down the road, to compare those. And I'm glad to hear that we're going to be listening to the CEO's technicalities on this workplace violence in the future. So that was my inquiry, was that if the CEO or how much information or what part they were gonna play on this. Thank you.
Definitely. Thanks, Eric. And it's almost, I look at it as like a two-prong effort. We have a portion that the CEO has her involvement over with the organization and the policies. And then with our courts, we need to make sure that our codes support our policies and vice versa. So it's a good topic. We always want to make sure that everyone feels safe at work. I know even sometimes the tribal council hallways, people sometimes are upset, and we don't ever want people to feel unsafe, no matter which building they work on, within our community. Brian, did you have anything else you wanted to expand upon on that, or where would
No,
you
I
like to go?
guess from this point forward, I'd like to make a motion to place this item on the general council agenda for further consideration.
Okay, we have a motion to place this item on the general council agenda. Do we have a second?
I'm sorry.
We have a second from Louis. Discussion. Objection to the motion. With no objection, motion carried 8-0-0. Our next item is the Bryce Anderson land.
Thank you, council.
I'd like to turn the floor over to John to talk about this.
Yeah, this won't take long. I just, last year there was an opportunity. Bryce Anderson is a large landowner within our reservation, and he was looking to sell a large amount of land to the tribe. And there was a group formed, I believe it was our CFO, our treasurer, and land management, and they kind of worked, but I think the initiative kind of fell short there, and it never got back to the table. And I felt really sad because I know there was a lot of support, and I support it, and I believe there was some issues that didn't make it to the table. So I wanted to refresh an idea. I was refreshing the opportunity at the table, and I talked with Aaron, and Aaron, I wanted him to present to the tribe again, because I know this is a different council, and maybe there's some council members who weren't aware of it, but it's a huge opportunity. It's a rare opportunity to buy a large amount of the reservation back. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And I also am supportive of this opportunity. It's not fractionated, and to have the opportunity to purchase such a piece that is very valuable has been presented. And where would you like to see that presented? Are you looking for a special meeting, or as soon as the regular meeting next Tuesday?
I'll get with Aaron and then see what his availability is, and I'll let him know the meetings, and I could just add it to the agenda so we can get that presentation.
Okay, I think that it would be helpful to bring the conversation back for discussion. It is also another seems like once in a lifetime opportunity, and thank you for bringing it back up, Brian.
Just a real quick comment, Madam Chair. I want to state that I support this item wholeheartedly. I believe I sent a message to some of you in relation to this, because I share John's sentiment that this kind of has seemed to gotten, I don't want to say forgotten about, but is definitely not prioritized to the level that it ought to be, simply due to its size and also what it would offer back to the tribe. So with that, because I want this to be left as something that we work toward, I want to make a motion to authorize John Snowball to take all actions necessary to preserve the Anderson land acquisition movement going forward.
Is there a second? We got a second from Coley. Discussion. Lorelei.
Well, I'm sorry that I wasn't on the tribal council when all of this land was described, but I would like to see the documentation. I would like to see just like we just received from this Fiscus land purchase. I want to see the maps. I want to see how much land we're talking about. I want to see if the appraisal says what kind of land it is. Where is that documentation? Was that done before?
Yes, Lorelei, Aaron Lapointe previously presented this, so we're gonna bring this back to the table.
So we're gonna all get to see this documentation when it
Yes.
comes back to the table.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Louis?
I think this gives us an opportunity to get a lot of land that we can set up separate housing sites in clusters and expand the space for housing for tribal members. We had the money, 7 million. We turned it back. It was Cobell money. And we gotta see if we can get that Cobell money back. Because that would enable us to buy a lot more land. Because after the white community found out about Bryce's offer, there were other people that wanted to sell their land. So I think we have to go after everything, set our goals high, and get as much land as possible. Because we talk about housing, we get 10 houses up, they get filled, and the next day we're behind again. We gotta come up with a comprehensive plan to build houses. Because other people, when they get into trouble in the city, they come back because it's home. Somebody will take them in. And we need more land to respond to those kinds of needs. I looked into tiny houses, square foot, the price per square foot is the same on a tiny house or a conventional house. But there's strategies we can look at to get around that. We can build our own. We can teach young kids how to do that. But we've got to put together a major plan that will respond to specific needs. Coley and I sit on a housing. It's frustrating. HUD has so many rules. You gotta have all your money there for the project before you can go ahead. And I noticed at the end of the minutes, there was we went after some emergency money and we got it. And I don't know if we got the approval of this from the council. Because we're going after getting that money which will address the problems we're talking about. We need the land. One of the sad things that happened in the history of the tribe, we bought this reservation. Nobody gave it to us. We bought our own reservation. And the government with the Dawes Act, the people homestead on it. He took it. Under the Brown-Stevens Act, they tax trust land. The people would lose their land for not paying a bill. We lost a lot of land. You can't tax trust land. And a lot has been done to this tribe. It's been wrong. But in order to get it corrected, we have to do it ourselves. I don't feel sorry for those farmers. As soon as we get the land back as quick as we can, and at the lowest price, we can negotiate. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Those are some awesome comments. Lorelai.
Can Brian read back what his motion was?
Yeah, to authorize John Snowball to take all actions necessary to preserve the acquisition process of the Bryce Anderson property.
To preserve the Bryce Anderson land acquisition documents,
Process.
to process them?
No. Am I cutting out or what?
No, you got it. I wrote it down, Lorelai.
Okay, all right. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had the motion right. And who seconded it?
Coley.
Okay.
Can you mute your phone, Brian? Okay, thanks. Okay, Thelma.
I just had a question on that. Would Wilhelmina, will their program be working with that, being that it's the land?
John?
Yeah, first off, I wanted to say thank you to Brian, thank you to Coley, for considering me for this assignment. I think it's an honor to me, and I'm really gonna be fast with it and be diligent with it. And yes, Thelma, the answer to your question is yes. The group would be the CFO, Aaron, and land management. That was the group that was working on it before. So we would just get that same group back going, and I believe they probably will have all the options. And I want to get all those options to the table for the council to make a decision on it.
Okay, thank you, John. Get the band back together. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, we had some really good discussion, and we have a great opportunity. So is there any further comments? Is there an objection to the motion? Without objection, motion carried. Lorelai, are you within ear range? Are you voting? Okay, it looks like Lorelai stepped away from her desk, so motion carried 7-0-0. Our next item is heating and cooling assistance. I put this on the agenda. You may have noticed last week we had a post go out, information about the Winnebago tribe's heating and cooling assistance. And that was in response to the polar vortex and the previous week where we had many people that were without heat, busted, frozen, busted pipes, just a variety of issues. And I want to thank the tribal organization, our facilities department, our health department, everyone that had a role in our council had a role in trying to meet the mark with some of those emergencies, many of them after hours on the weekend. So some of those families are still without adequate heating, and we found that the cost was outside of some of the programming. So Alan went to work in finding resources that could be reprogrammed to meet the heating and cooling hardship. And so that announcement went out, and the council, it had happened so fast, the council wasn't briefed on it. And so Rona and I had talked with Alan on how we really appreciate that, but the council didn't have any input or approval of those guidelines, but they had just used the same previous guidelines that they had for the other programming. And that caused a little bit of friction because some of the council wanted to be a part of that discussion, as well as say that we'd like seniors prioritized, we'd like children, or we'd like families with children prioritized. And so I just bring this today, one, to thank everybody and to have an opportunity for the council to have a little input on if you're okay with these guidelines or if you'd like to see some additions. We put the program on hold. I know Danae has been getting a ton of phone calls on questions, and so the need is there, and I don't want to hold it up anymore, but I wanted to make sure that the council had an awareness on how it came to be that way. And if you had any input, of course, we can only serve so many. We're already getting inquiries on off reservation participation, and so that's what this item's about. So the floor is open.
Comment, Madam Chair.
Brian.
Yes, first, thank you, Tori, for bringing this forward. I had a conversation with our secretary, well, it's probably been way over a month now. One of the subject matters that I'd like to bring up in tandem with this, and I think it may or may not fit depending on the direction we take it, is I would like the council to promulgate an emergency declaration provision, whereas as what you guys are all seeing, when the federal government or any one of the states is experiencing some type of natural disaster or other extraordinary emergency, it's either the president or the governors of those states enact their emergency procedures, or they declare the emergency in order to enact everything that goes into place with that. So in the discussion that I was having with Lorelei, what we found is that there is supposed to be a plan for these types of things, and where these things may or may not fit is a different, I guess, discussion. But overall, my intent and what I would like to see us do is actually engage an emergency declaration process so that the chair for, and that's honestly, in my opinion, where it belongs, will declare that emergency, and then resources that we will not necessarily touch or may not necessarily have available for just generalities will become available to the tribal members. So like when the ice storm hit, we need to create a funding source that is going to be able to provide for the necessities that we know are going to occur. Because as what all of you are seeing, the council and the tribe are being called on again and again and more as these emergencies seem to rack up. Now, COVID, of course, has influences in this as well, but I think without that type of emergency declaration process, we're just going to continue to beat our head against the wall, and unfortunately, tribal members will fall through the cracks. None of us want that. We all want to be able to provide assistance and help, especially when it is an emergency of that level or of those types. So let's do the governmental work necessary in order to effectuate that process more formally. And I'm sure we can get into the details of the plan that may or may not exist as it applies to each one of these scenarios. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Brian. And that is another piece that after it warmed up, we didn't. So the CEO is also aware of that issue and working with our emergency manager to build a more robust program and response so that when these things happen, our plan kicks into action and we're not kind of like, oh, well, we can't that's not allowable, that's over 250, it just makes it hard to say those things when somebody's cold and using only a space heater. Eric. You're on mute, Eric.
Can you hear me? Thank you for bringing this up. And I know I've had a lot of inquiries on this subject myself, and it was all kind of slingshotted into motion. Everybody was like a step or two behind the power curve of what was really going on. And so I would like to have the task force bring their ideas through the council, because kind of that's what in my eyes, that's what the task was for, was to guide the council through this process of this pandemic. And so before they execute any more great ideas, to run it through the council so we can be aware of what's going on and we can have answers for our enrolled membership, because right now we didn't know what was going on. And so I guess I'd like to say about that much on the task force. But as for the emergency planning of disasters, I know we've been talking about this since last year with Matt May to come up with some solutions for anything like that may come up. And I think it would be a good time to get an update from Matt on what he's come up with on those solutions, so we would be able to declare a state of emergency for our reservation. So anyways, I'd say about that much. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. John, and then Rona. Actually, I think Rona had her hand up. I'm sorry. We'll go to Rona and then John. Rona.
Okay, yeah. When we got the call last Thursday, I got like 3 calls before I even knew of this flyer that went out on Facebook. It was kind of like hard to explain because I didn't even know what was going on. They wanted to know, what were the guidelines and who chose these guidelines and all of that. So I just think it's a common courtesy to notify those who are here in the office daily to be able to answer these questions on the phone. That's all I ask for, is a common courtesy to include the tribal council, because we're the ones that were getting the calls. And 2, the guidelines and the dollar limit, is that an amount that's going to actually help people? Because I did receive a request from one of the tribal members that's only half the amount of her quote that she got to replace her furnace. So is there anything else, or how are we going to be able to help everybody if the amount doesn't even cover the replacement or the repairs of a furnace for a house? And that's it.
Thank you, Rona. And I know that, well, I don't know, but I suspect that the threshold that they identified, I think it was 30, well, there was 2 amounts on there. It was like 4,000 and then 3,500. And so those are the kinds of things that I know we had some outreach on, asking some of the guys over at housing, in their experience, how much does it cost to replace some of these things. So some of the council have been just calling on others, trying to get some perspective. And so I hope that if that there are some that exceed that we'd find some way to help them meet the mark. And right now it's cold, but in a few months it's going to be the heat. And I see our climate changing. I think we see different things with our seasons, and we just have to do these things so that that we'll be having the same conversations when it's over 100 degrees or something and humid. And so who had next comment? John had the next comment, and then Thelma.
Yeah, I just wanted to provide my best thought on this, because it was the first time I saw it too. was on when it came out. And so understanding that that's something that didn't come through the task force. And from what I believe, or from what I know, or to the best of my knowledge, is that was BIA funds, and the task force had no part in presenting that budget to the council. That was presented by, I believe, the treasurer and the CFO. And also the CFO, I have heard comments that these budgets are going to be working budgets, that there's going to be some moving parts, like some things might not cost as much, some things might cost a little more, and it's going to be a working budget. So that was kind of the best of my knowledge. I mean, I was in the same boat as everybody else is seeing this, and I guess I just want to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Who was next? Was it Thelma? Was that who was next? I think Thelma was next. And then Lorelai.
Okay. On this help, that assistance that's coming through, I realize that a lot of people cannot afford a lot of these things, but I think our people need to realize that we can't help everybody, and that they should be grateful for what was offered, because who knows, maybe there's more than, who knows how many furnaces are out or they're cooling. So I think really they should be thankful for that money that's coming to them, and kind of work with it. And I know the tribe's doing the best they can to assist everyone, but we can't help everybody. So I just say be thankful for what you're getting and try to work with us on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Thelma. Lorelai?
Okay, I was in the office the day that our front office lady got a phone call from a very angry tribal member that lives off the reservation. And she didn't know what this tribal member was talking about. This tribal member was upset because, and then we found out that this was on Facebook. And it was these guidelines that we didn't even know anything about, that were in the office that day. And so the chairwoman Kitchan and I, we spoke with Garen and wanted to know how that got on there. And the tribal council hadn't even seen this. And so we had him put it on hold so we could get to the bottom of this. But there's a lot of questions that go with this, because this guideline says 4,000 for, you can get to up to 4,000 for a furnace and up to 3,500 for a cooling system or air system. And so I went and talked to the CFO. I said, how much money is sitting for these two, heating and cooling? And he said there's roughly 110,000 that could go towards furnaces, and roughly, I think it was like 108,000 that's available for air conditioning. So I don't know how we're going to be fair about this, for on reservation or off reservation, because some people's furnaces cost more. And an average cost of furnace replacement that housing sees is $3,500 for a new furnace. I got that from the housing authority. And for a outside central, a furnace with outside unit central air, it's $6,500. And then we are not even thinking about who's going to be the contractor. Who's going to go and look and see what's needed? And is that going to be in a bid process? Are we going to limit what the contractor can charge for labor? So we're talking about $110,000. And we know that there's great need out there, or the same for air conditioning. So my thinking was if the homeowner puts in, they would submit an estimate of what their new furnace they need is. And then there's some contractors that gouge our people that come on the reservation. And then there's other contractors that are really good. So I was thinking that, you know, with that amount of money and however many applicants we get, that we have a lottery. And whose names get pulled out will get, and that's the only fair way to use 110,000 in my mind, is to put each homeowner and their furnace or each homeowner and their air conditioning system, and then we have a drawing for how much money there is available. So that way everybody gets into the pool. That's the only way I can see doing this. Otherwise, how are we going to do this so it's fair? And is it just going to be on reservation? Or what about off reservation that lives in a 50-mile radius? Or beyond that? And so these were issues that I thought about when I saw that these guidelines were sitting on Facebook, and we're the ones that have to answer for this. So those are questions that I have around this. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorelei. As far as the contractors, the facilities department or construction management, I know Danae's office has been the one tasked with receiving these applications, and the criteria was based on the same criteria that we had for the last round of assistance, and it was on reservation. Going back to some of the emails and calls that we've gotten on off reservation tribal members from, you know, every direction, as close as South Sioux, as far as Wisconsin, have been in contact. And the thing that it's just a really hard conversation to have is that back in March, when they started asking the tribes for their input and how would you receive these type of funds, and whether it be BIA or CARES, they used their own method on how much each tribe would get. And so the Winnebago tribe has never been in control, although we have our own thoughts and advocacy points. We weren't the decision makers on how much each tribe got. And we later learned that one of the data points that they used to calculate that was based on the census data within the HUD program. And so they're only counting, you know, those HUD units to say, this is how many you know, tribal members live there, this is how many their need. And we know that our need is far beyond that calculation. And so that's been the really difficult part for the Winnebago Tribal Council, to meet the mark and the need of the people with a fraction of the people, with a fraction of the resources. And it's been very difficult to tell our off-reservation relatives that unfortunately we didn't get to count you. And if maybe we did, then we'd have enough money to go around to every single enrolled tribal member that has expectation of support and resources when they're available. So I want to say that to just reassure our membership that we were not in control of that, and we never have enough money. And so now we have to figure out how we spread that. Lorelei offered a suggestion with the lottery. You know, I would like to see our seniors prioritized, but I guess it's up to the table on how you want to proceed. But the guidelines that are presently in place are consistent with what we've done from the start of the pandemic. So I don't know if this is something that we want to just completely change, or how we proceed. I just I don't want to make it more complicated than it is, but I want to make sure that you're fully aware of how this transpired. So Oh, Rona, sorry.
Well, I just got a message from Alan. He said there's only $108,000. There's no 110. There's only $108,000 that is part of the BIA COVID funds. And if you divide that on an average, you're only maybe going to be able to service 16 to 20 furnaces households. So that's not a lot of where everybody's going to be in a lottery for, or how are we going to prioritize? I do think elders, homeowners should be a priority. You know, they're on a fixed income and they need help and assistance. So that's just my opinion on it. You know, elders that are homeowners, if they need their furnace replaced or fixed.
Okay,
Comment, Madam Chair.
Brian.
I guess maybe more of a question. Is it my am I correct in understanding that the guidelines and the qualifications of those is still up for determination, or am I wrong?
It's up for discussion. The program and the application rolled out, and so the membership have seen it. Some have applied, and now it's just, I guess, bringing it back to the table saying, are you okay with those guidelines? Because we've gotten a lot of pushback from off reservation. So I don't know if that's I don't want to say it's not the issue, because if we can't even serve the homes here, we certainly aren't going to be able to have an impactful reach off the reservation. So that's the issue.
Okay, thank you.
Eric.
Since we only have a limited amount, and knowing that we have more than enough elders that could utilize that here, and like you said, it's pretty unknown about the off reservation elders, because they might be staying somewhere, they might be renting somewhere, and by the time they get that in and fixed, they might be evicted, they might move out, they might we might be fixing up a house that they don't even own, and because they get a new furnace, the owner might be kicking them out, whatever that may be. And so I would say, due to the fact that we have more than enough on reservation elders, that we should be tending to them first. Thank you.
Okay. With all that's been said, the other thing that I want to offer that, you know, I don't want to spend money before we get it, but there is gonna be another round of funding. We know that out of the, what was it, 20 billion set aside for Indian country, every tribe was going to get 1.7 million equally, and then the remaining 19 was going to be basically up to I don't know if it was the Secretary or the Treasury. So again, you know, we have no idea how they're going to break up the rest of that money. And I want to say it even said like based on need, or I don't know. You guys probably saw the same email. So I don't want to say that we aren't going to be able to open this back up, because like I said, it's going to be hot pretty soon, but we can only take care of what we can take care of now. And that's I know you're all doing the best you can to be responsive to these questions, but to not make it more complicated. And Lorelei, I appreciate you trying to capture more people with the lottery, but I don't know if that would just make it prolonged time to get these people their furnaces. So do you guys just want to leave it how it is? Do you want to say seniors and children, first come, first serve? I mean, it's been first come, first serve. The other thing I think to remember is that the seniors have a senior program that is specifically for them, that they may be able to be served under, and this pot of money might serve those that aren't eligible for the senior home repair. So just thoughts, Eric.
I would start with the seniors, because if that program was taking care of what it needs to do, the parameters might need to be loosened up. Maybe they have too many steps. Maybe it's income. Maybe it's age. Maybe it's who all lives in the house. Whatever it might be, might disqualify a general elder living by themselves that own their own house, that's not on housing, that own their own house. But they really need a furnace. And I know there's one elder that is running on a very weak, low heating furnace that owns their own house right now, that is looking forward to this. And if we change any of those parameters up, then and put it back under that program, they might not qualify for this money. And this is like free money, and we should be giving this out. And I would say, let's keep it with the elders. There's more than enough elders that could use some heat. And that, I know at least 3 of them right now that can use some, and we have less than 20. It's not going to go too far. So it's just my input. Thank you.
Oh. Okay. Well, I don't want to. Well, I don't have a vote unless it's a tie, but I don't think we should keep it to just elders. But I do think elders should definitely have a preference. There's multi-generational homes that have, from all ages. So anyway, is there a motion, or do you guys want to leave it how it is? I'm just kind of, I didn't mean to cause more confusion, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what was up.
Madam Chair, another way to do this is to put the money into put the money into the whichever program and replace furnaces as they give out.
I think that's another way of looking at it, is whose is currently out, and not just an opportunity to get new one because it's going to go out soon. But we do have folks right now who are just completely without, and perhaps they're the priority.
When this money first came out and it came to the council, I went and sat in there when we divvied up a lot of that money for the tribe. And the biggest thing for this money was COVID response. It has to be for COVID response. We can't keep it for too long, and it has to keep moving. And so I would agree that multi-generational houses should be second on the list, especially with young children inside those houses. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the comments. So how do you want to proceed, council? I feel like I just convoluted this and made it more complicated, but I'm sorry, Thelma.
I just have a question on it. So when these people are putting in for their furnace, is someone going out to actually check that it is not even working, or is it something that can be fixable? Or because I think it really needs to be checked out. If it is broke, it's not working completely, then we can help them. But I think that's one of the things on that guideline has to be checked.
Okay. And we can definitely work with Danae to make sure that her contractors are evaluating the need. I know with some of the last, what was that last assistance before this one, but some people said, oh, the water or the fixtures, the plumbing. Some people said, I need a new toilet or something. And when they got in there, they found that their water heater was shot or something like. So the program was working with the families to get up to their allowable allocation, I guess. And it was based on what was needed. Eric.
Okay, the last thing I'd like to say on this, because you're asking how to go about this, I personally would like to hear what the CFO had in mind when he originally put this out there to bring us up to speed because we're still a day late and a dollar short on trying to see how this is gonna go. So I'd kind of like to hear what the CFO would have to say on this.
Right. Although I'm not a mind reader and I don't speak on behalf of Alan, he was being responsive to the polar vortex. And when there were folks without heat, he was pretty much trying to be responsive. And it was like basically within a day or two, well, that following week, this went out. And so the BIA funds didn't have the same timeline as those CARES funds. And so there was no deadline to spend those BIA funds. And so that's what we still had available. And that's what I meant by he reprogrammed it so that it's like, here, now we can pay for somebody's furnace. Where before, several days before, we're telling people there's nothing we can do to help you. So that's to just make it simple how this all came to be. And so I don't want to like be disrespectful to Alan because he literally did his job, but we just had a disconnect. So if we're just kind of getting carried away, we can definitely table this till tomorrow during the CEO report, and Alan we can just figure this out.
Tori,
Is that better? Hi, John.
I just wanted to say that I would be in support of just moving forward and helping whoever we can help. You know, we have what we have, and we can only help so many people, and that's understandable. So I just wanted to voice my that I would support just moving forward.
Okay, thanks, John. Any other comments? And so if there's no motion, then this was just for discussion only. I just wanted to, I guess, out of respect for the council as well, make sure you had all the information. Okay. Our next topic is the main road through Winnebago, which would be highway, is that 77, 75 south? Eric?
Yes, I want to bring this up before because as as we go through our main road through our village, that we see the potholes are getting bigger, the water, the ice, and knowing that once it thaws out, it's going to start cracking and go farther, and then we just had our wall replaced in town, and the steps are yet to be put in for those houses up there. And so, if I'm not mistaken, there was a plan to go through Winnebago and redo the roads going through Winnebago from last year. But seeing how it's kind of you just don't drive through our village anymore. When you drive through there, you slow down and you swerve and whatever you gotta do to get through the make passage through our village. And so I think I would just like to get an update from Ron Knorr and maybe the CFO to kind of give us an idea of what we can tell the people on that our main road. I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one that's talking about it or getting asked about it, but it's just kind of something to look forward to as the weather starts getting more nicer.
Thanks, Eric. We can definitely put that on our CEO agenda and have Ron brief us on any contact or update he's gotten from the Nebraska Department of Transportation and when we can expect that highway to be finished, and just so we have kind of an updated timeline for our own information. So thank you for bringing that forward. Did you want to make a motion or anything, or you want to just work with Esther to place it on the next agenda?
I guess just make it do a motion to put on the CEO or the general counsel, whichever one would be next.
The CEO agenda would be more appropriate since Ron reports under the CEO.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion by Eric and we have a second by Brian to place update on the Highway 7775 project at our next annual report. Is there any further discussion? Coley,
Yeah, just a quick comment. It won't be much longer, another summer, and that road will be complete to the roundabout, our original one. When Harris Construction starts back up again from their winter break, another summer should all
All
be
right.
finished.
Good comment, Coley. Thank you for sharing that update. Coley has a wealth of information. He's our former chairman, so we need to start asking Coley. You know, he might know about some of these projects. So okay, we have a motion to. Any more comments on the road? Any objection to the motion? Without objection, motion carried. Brian, are you still with us? John, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, Tori, I'm here.
Okay, looks like Rona's away, so without objection, motion passed 7-0-0. Council, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Thank you so much to all those that had a role.
Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
We have a motion by Brian. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objection to the motion? We are adjourned. Thank you everyone for your time and attention and all those that
Thank you,
helped.
Council.
Good night.